I was on birth control when my husband and I got married 12 years ago. I stopped taking it around 2016, and I believe not being on it has slowly changed my attraction to my husband negatively. This is real. A 2014 study published in Proceedings of the Royal Society B found that women who chose their partners while on birth control reported lower levels of sexual attraction to their partner after discontinuing the pill.
I think it's totally legit as far as the chemistry being altered through birth control. In our relationship, part 1, you were on birth control. I noticed a significant difference in your behavior. You could probably, if you could graph our connection in our marriage and see disconnect, perfectly aligned with birth control.
Welcome back to the Medicine Podcast. This is Chase and Mimi on our Chase and Mimi show.
This is the Chase and Mimi show.
And we are Chase and Mimi. You guys, exciting stuff. We made it to Sedona.
We are in the vortex currently.
We are. And if you're watching this on YouTube, obviously you are seeing that this is a different backdrop, a different background than usual. We are posted up in our very own living room right now, and we're still kind of figuring out the details of the podcasting backdrop format. It's just it's a new setting that we're changing up and getting used to.
Our Sedona dwelling is not ours, technically. We are renting.
We are renting.
And it's furnished. So it comes with, as you might see behind Mimi's head, a horse artwork, as well as a few other components that we may or may not adjust. But overall, it's loving it.
It's like 95% like perfect.
Yeah, it's incredible. I mean, everywhere we look is a beautiful red rock formation.
Yeah.
It's been like 100 degrees here, which is a little too warm for me.
Yeah.
But mornings and evenings are beautiful. The stars, Sedona is a uniquely visual night sky for being a population size that it is. I think it's really not that big of a town, but it has a very unique night sky. Many UFO sightings here in Sedona, which we've been out the last 4 or 5 nights staring up at the sky, and I have yet to see anything but a beautiful shooting star.
Yeah.
But I'm here. I'm open. I'm willing.
We say that every night.
I'm ready to witness.
We are ready to see a UFO. we say that every night.
I think I've seen one in my life over the military base in San Diego.
We can't be sure, but
I can be.
Okay. Yeah. No, backing up like 2 seconds. What do you mean by unique night sky? I think you mean like for it being a city, there's not a lot of light pollution.
And we're high elevation.
Yeah.
And there is a very visual star bouquet, if you will.
There's a lot of stars.
Compared to like San Diego, you see like 3 stars, even on a clear night.
Yeah, you do.
The light pollution is just pretty hardcore from the city. And we're used to being in Priest Lake, Idaho in the summers, which we just spent, 2 or 3 weeks ago. We went out and stared up at the sky, and it's like, it's so bright. It almost feels just lit up at night because the stars are so damn bright. And it's really similar here. And so I'm looking forward to building in the practice of staring up at the sky, looking for aliens, I don't know, shooting stars, whatever the universe decides to offer to my eyeballs as I stare up in the dark of night.
So we need to come up with a nickname. We always have a nickname for like the places that we live.
True.
Like when we were in Seattle, it was the Beach Bungalow.
Yep.
And we even had like a sign in the house. And then at the condo in Coronado, it was Hotel del Chaz.
Yep.
Little spin-off from Hotel del Coronado. And you also had a sign.
Yes, my father calls me Chaz for some reason, and he's the only one. But he named it Hotel del Chaz.
Except kind Paul. Of a beautiful
that's right. Paul Check calls me Chaz sometimes too. So yeah, I think it's fitting that we come up with a unique name. And it's one of those things that has to just sort of like divinely fall into your lap.
Right, yeah. Well, I have 2 ideas.
Okay. Multiple choice, maybe.
And feel free to poop on these if you want. Literally and figuratively. The first one is the Ross Roost.
Ooh, I like that. I shouldn't give our address, but Ross is in the address.
Yes. The Ross Roost or just the Vortex.
Yeah. The Ross Roost to me sounds like the Rosh Niche. Which, if you've seen the documentary Wild Wild Country, that was Osho's cult. Yeah. The Rosh Niche. And I've probably...
Rosh Niche.
The Rosh Niche. So the Rosh... What did you say? The Ross Roost.
The Ross Roost.
Okay. I'm going to have to really try that one out for a while. But the Vortex is pretty... the Vortex Dome, the Vortex... Something along those lines. I might play with that a little bit. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. There's a lot of famous mountains here. The Sedona Red Rocks. There's Thunder Mountain, which is, the namesake of the Thunder Mountain ride at Disneyland, right?
Yep.
And then there's Chimney Rock. No, that's Priest.
Yeah, Chimney Rock is Priest, although there could very well be a Chimney Rock here. We don't know, but there's Cathedral Rock, there's Courthouse.
There's the
Coffee Pot. There's all these really cool names for the rock formations, and many of these rock formations have what energy enthusiasts call vortexes, which is this particular spiraling of energy that comes out of the center of the earth. There can be a masculine vortex or a feminine vortex in the way that it's directionally moving, and people have sworn by these as healing modalities for years. And so people have come to Sedona talking prehistoric times all the way back into native Southwestern Americans. Dinosaurs as well, yeah. I remember the dinosaurs talking about that in their documentary.
You said prehistoric, so it made me think of dinosaurs.
I'm sure dinosaurs were just fucking loving Sedona. So yeah, it's been for millennia. People have been coming to this particular location for spiritual healing, and for wellness. At
the very least, even if you don't say you're well, I'm not into the woo-woo stuff. You're just a, 65-year-old boomer guy. A lot of people do just talk about how much better they feel when they leave. They feel calmer, more peaceful, just more balanced overall. And it's you don't even have to go to these vortexes and do a meditation and a handstand and all these, chants and stuff. It's just coming here, people feel calmer and more balanced in some way.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll be continuing to talk about how, really cool this location is, and whether we're only here for 9 months or whether we choose to make this our home forever, for all time. It's going to be fun to have the backdrop of Sedona from whether you just want to call it a healing location or whether you want to call it, modern day relics of the Atlantean culture, like many believe it was. I think there's just a lot of fun to be had, and so it'll bleed into the content that we get to create.
Yeah, we're absolutely loving it so far. It's been great to be in a house versus a condo or apartment situation, and I'm personally just loving all of the space. It's not even a huge house. It's 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, but it's nicely spread out. We got a nice yard.
We've been living in a beach condo for 8 years, so this feels expansive.
Yes, it does, and it's just been really nice.
Yeah. All right. Well, we're getting on to our segments as we always do with the Chase and Mimi Show. We've got what we like to call appetizer segments before we get to the entree of the Chase and Mimi Show episodes, which is questions from our audience, questions from our community. Most of the time they pertain to relationships. Then we wrap this thing up with a crazy story. So, but without further ado, you want to get into it?
Yeah, let's do it.
First segment, shit I've been on lately, dog.
And this one is a little different because these are shared. We're doing these shared. Usually we have so something I've been on, something you've been on lately.
It's what we're currently obsessed with. It can be a health modality. It can be something we're interested in from an entertainment standpoint. It could be a book we're reading.
But the ones that we're going to share are both of us.
Yeah.
Together.
We're sharing the shit.
We're sharing the shit. Yes. I'll go first. Sharing the shit we're both on. This is very exciting, actually. Are you guys excited?
Yeah, this is an official announcement.
MushyLove Latte and Intel AHCC both have gotten facelifts.
Woo!
And we're talking top of the line facelifts. We're talking Malibu facelifts, not
Jesus. Well, I've seen some of those. Those are pretty brutal. Yeah, I mean, this is something we've been working on for years with AHCC.
Yeah.
As you know, everybody listening, everybody watching who subscribe to AHCC, all of you do, you know that the bottles are plastic. And it's been something that we have had no other option thus far. There's a bunch of very specific conditions that we get the opportunity to participate in AHCC through. One of those has been a limit on our ability to diversify the packaging. Up until now, we've been begging, we've been pounding on the doors of our supply chain team.
And it's something that people have legitimately asked for many times. Like, hey, have you guys ever thought about doing glass? I'm like, yes, we have. And we've tried. And finally, after, a couple of years of trying to get this in the works, we are finally here. We are mere weeks away from being able to offer the glass bottles with a new lovely label that you guys will see. Shout out to Casey, our graphic designer. She's the best. So
the aesthetic is very similar, and it complements and matches that of the MushyLove packaging. You'll see our Mushroom of Life logo that we use on the podcast. And you'll see the gold mycelia that kind of wraps around the entire package, and it's glass, and it's an amber glass with a gold cap. We feel very strongly that plastic is detrimental to the environment that we live in,
to our bodies,
to the creatures that are part of this planet, and so it has weighed heavy upon us to be offering a plastic product, but I assure you that era is over. It's not that the plastic bottles that you are consuming now, there's anything wrong with them necessarily. It's just that we believe this to be an evolution and a step towards the right direction to align our ethos with everything that we offer, not just the capsule itself, but the literal cap, the literal bottle.
Yeah,
and it's going to look freaking sexy on your shelf.
So sexy. We have some samples in our pantry right now. I almost went and grabbed one to show, but I'll leave the final reveal for when we actually have the final product. But this was also something that, newsflash, glass costs a lot more than plastic.
Yeah.
So this was something that we also needed to work up to get to a point where we were able to make this financial jump from plastic to glass. Everything costs something. And so, we may have to adjust the price just to make sure that we can stay in business with this change, because every cent, every dollar counts when you're running a business. So, you may see that on the website, but obviously it's for even more premium product.
And the price adjustment will not even be close to significant. The cost that we're incurring will be significantly more than the price adjustments that we'll be making.
Yeah.
We are just committed to having a better footprint on this planet from an environmental standpoint. And so really, really stoked about that. And that's just part one of another product announcement, a product upgrade, the Malibu facelift of MushyLove Latte. We launched MushyLove about 1.5 to 2 years ago, and we had a killer formulation. We did this thing in our kitchen. We spent years trying to find a non-caffeinated, non-dirt, mud-like taste to a mushroom latte experience that did not include a bunch of sweeteners. And we found it. As many of you know who have consumed MushyLove, it is a clean, delicious, highly efficacious mushroom product. It's got 1 gram of mushrooms, 500 milligrams of which is tremella, which is the beauty mushroom. It's super hydrating. I've been using it a ton while we've been in the desert here the last 10 days or so, and it's really, really been helping. And then chaga, which is just a super supportive, adaptogenic mushroom for immunity, for gut health, for skin health,
for hair and nails.
And then we also use these other ingredients, right? We've got top tier mushrooms from some incredible people who source mushrooms in China, actually, and the entire supply chain is top tier. And then we've used cinnamon and lucuma. We've organic oat milk, as well as organic coconut milk. All of these have been vetted, and they're highly, highly
all organic ingredients,
efficacious as well. Since we launched that product, we have basically been back in the lab of our kitchen, trying to ensure that not only high quality products, but the taste is as good as it possibly can be. And so there's, oddly enough, some little things that you can do. You can source different types of high quality oat milk powders and coconut milk powders. You can source different types of cinnamon. Believe it or not, there's a wide variety of the way that, of cinnamon types and how they actually taste and feel. And so we've made a couple tweaks, just to list a couple of those tweaks. We're using a different type of cinnamon. It's a little more sweet. It's got a little bit more of like a less of a spiciness to it.
Yeah, less of a, like there's cinnamon that it has a little bite to it and it has a little like kind of spicy aftertaste. And it's great. It's good. The one we were using, but this new one that we're using is smoother and slightly sweeter. So the whole mouth experience, you have less of like a little bite to the aftertaste when you drink the MushyLove.
And then our ratio of oat milk powder to coconut milk powder, we've also changed just slightly, so it comes out a bit creamier. And then the blending. So there's a host of different machinery and there's a host of different groups that will run the product lines to blend all these different ingredients together. And that actually can contribute a lot to less the taste and more of the actual like experience that you get, whether it's creamier, whether it's grittier. And so we really feel that the way that we've been manufacturing MushyLove here in this latest batch is superior even to what we thought was an incredible fulfillment process prior. So
it was already like MushyLove. It was already the best tasting mushroom elixir out there that I've ever tasted in my life. And I've tried almost all of them.
Right.
And we somehow found a way to make it even more of a delicious and smooth, tasty experience. So we are very, very excited, if you guys can't tell. And just, heads up, we actually got asked this recently, if we were going to have any AHCC sales soon. And with the new label and glass bottle and with the new MushyLove tweaks and formulation, we are definitely going to have a promo for the both products, but we are going to be sharing that in the Medicine Drop newsletter. So if you're already a subscriber, great. Just keep checking your emails from us. You will see the discount code to use. But that's going to be the only place that we share it. So if you are not a Medicine Drop newsletter subscriber, then just go to the show notes or go to the description box if you're on YouTube, and you'll see a link to sign up to be a subscriber and get that promo code.
New AHCC bottles and reformulated MushyLove by the end of October should be live. So take a look. We don't have an exact date yet, but roughly late October, early November.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Fun stuff. All right. Moving on to the other shit we've been on lately.
Well, the other shit we've been on lately is actually in the form of entertainment via Netflix and the show Nobody Wants This, or as I like to call it, Seth Cohen, The Adult Years.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. It's the best show that I've seen in a long time. And most of that is because of Adam Brody.
It's not that I have a man crush on Adam. There's other men that I prefer physically to Adam Brody.
Henry Cavill.
But he's one. But there's something about his personality. I don't know if it's something that I resonate with.
He's just so damn likable.
There's a wittiness. He reminds me of one of the friends that I grew up with. And so there's a reverence for him, in addition to the fact that I grew up on the OC.
Yeah.
The OC was prime time for me as a millennial.
Major nostalgia.
It is, I don't know, maybe like 43% of the reason that I moved to Southern California for nearly a decade. I longed to be in the Cohen household.
Yeah.
When I grew up, the Cohens are the family that's portrayed in the TV show The OC. And so I always wondered, like, what the hell happened to Adam Brody, who played Seth Cohen, kind of the primary character.
Because he was so good.
So good, so witty. Seemed like he really had a style that would age nicely and kind of graduate him into movies and other TV shows. But like, dude guy's been on maybe 4 things that I've heard of in the last 20 years.
Yeah.
And so to see him pop up, he looks amazing. He's got like 3.
He looks exactly the same.
Maybe 3 wrinkles. His body type's exactly the same somehow.
Skinny,
but like a lush head of hair.
Yeah.
He's got a little bit of a beard now, but like the wittiness, this is a matured Seth Cohen. And the dynamic with him and the female lead, Kristen Bell, it is so freaking good.
Yeah, their chemistry is like unreal.
We watched the first episode, and like right after their 25-minute episodes, I was like, God damn it, the chemistry.
Yeah, this
is so good.
Yeah. It's like I said, the best show that I've seen in a while. So if you haven't seen it yet, definitely put it on your watch list. Like Chase said, they're 25-minute episodes, and I think there's 10 episodes. So the first night we started watching, we got through half the season.
Yeah.
And I was actually kind of sad, with those short episodes. It just kind of flies by.
Well, and no spoilers here necessarily, but I think it would be worthwhile to just like recap what the show's about, just to whet the appetites of anybody who hasn't seen it.
There's definitely going to be spoilers later.
There will be, but not in this moment. Like what the show is, Nobody Wants This is what it's called. It's basically like a rom-com TV show.
Like movie level production.
Yeah, it's like
movie quality.
The opposite end of what like a Hallmark Christmas movie is like from a romantic acting perspective. Yeah. So Joanne, who's played by Kristen Bell, is like a podcast host, which is very 2024.
Yeah.
She's essentially, I would imagine mid-30s, which is roughly our millennial time frame. And she who has a long history of kind of toxic relationships, kind of transactional relationships, has a podcast with her sister, which is what seems to be kind of like a knockoff of Call Me Daddy.
Call her daddy.
Call her daddy. What is it? Call me daddy?
I will call you daddy.
Okay. That's where my head was at. And then she, happenstance runs into a very unexpected spark in the sense that she connects with Adam Brody's character, who is named Noah, and he just so happens to be a Jewish rabbi, which is such a funny dynamic because it's the classic coming from two different types of environments,
Romeo
like two
and Juliet.
different worlds. Yeah. And their chemistry is palpable, but the logistics of them getting together are seemingly insurmountable.
Yeah.
And so thus the storyline of whenever they're together, it's just like absolute just glue. But all of these forces in these two different worlds that they come from, which include family and friends and being in Los Angeles, which is, the cesspool of the world.
Dating.
It adds for just a very nicely dramatic, but what I find to be deeply relevant as it pertains to the topic of love and relationships in 2024 for millennials, for people who are dating or in, significant relationships. And I found it to be a nice actually launching point for maybe talking about some of the things that have come up in that show.
Yeah, it was surprising. It was surprisingly, like, as we're getting through the show, it's laugh out loud funny. And usually shows that are laugh out loud funny, you're not necessarily like learning a ton from, it's mostly just like comedy. But I was noticing as we were watching that like they have some real themes and some real like life lessons, packaged up, kind of hidden in this romantic comedy style of production. So yeah, we thought it would be fun to just like go through some of these themes and lessons. And so if you haven't seen it and you don't care about spoilers, I guess keep listening. But if you have seen it, I think that you'll resonate with this and you'll find this really interesting.
So segment 2 of the Chase and Mimi show, we call this one Pop Culture Pontifications, when pop culture provides something more useful than a poopy flavored lollipop. And today we've got the actual love and relationship lessons from the hit television series, Nobody Wants This. So the first lesson, the first topic, theme that really popped out to me, and you really find it, a few episodes into this, is the archetype of the devouring mother. So,
dun, dun, dun.
For context, interesting pair with the devouring mother. Noah, Adam Brody's character, is Orthodox Jew, and his family is very traditionally Jewish. And his mother expects him to marry within the faith. In the show, he had recently broken up with this woman named Rebecca, who was kind of what seemed like his betrothed, traditional Jewish
It was kind of like an arranged thing.
Really seemed like it. And so what we're going to do is we're going to bring up these topics, talk about the thing behind the thing, and then what is the lesson? Like if we can actually use something from pop culture and squeeze a bit of like legitimate relationship juice out of it, let's do it. So that's what we got. The thing behind the thing, as it pertains to Noah's mother, who wants him to only marry within the Jewish culture, is pertaining to this human archetype of the devouring mother. And so I realize that there is dogma in religion, whereby parents might actually think that if you marry outside of the religious space, you're going to burn in hell, for instance. But oddly enough, in this show, that's actually not what they're really getting at. I think the intention of this profile with this mom and son relationship is to highlight this devouring mother archetype. So let's just call it the DMA. The DMA refers to a maternal figure who, instead of nurturing growth and independence to their child, overly controls and smothers her children. They are devouring that individual's independent growth processes. So some other examples in pop culture would be, if you've seen the animated movie Tangled, which is about the chick who has the super long hair. What's her name? Rapunzel. The stepmother is kind of a devouring mother. Yeah. Or a movie we recently watched on an airplane, Crazy Rich Asians. The super rich, sexy bachelor guy's mother is a devouring mother. There's no woman who is good enough for her son. And so the thing behind the thing is less about the fact that you have to marry within the religion, and it's more about the mother, who I think everybody can find an example in their own lives, maybe their own families, maybe in their own, in-law type relationships, where it has nothing to do with the qualifications. It's that the perspective of that mother is that no woman will ever be good enough for my son. Yeah. It's control.
Oh God, we were watching it last night and I was like, I am so glad that I don't have to deal with that kind of mother-in-law situation. You hear horror stories, and a lot of it, comes back to this type of devouring mother where she's so possessive of her son, almost sometimes an overly possessive, overly attached way, where it's no woman's going to be good enough for my son because I want to be with my son. Right. It kind of feels like that.
There is this weird, unconscious, almost romantic connection between jealousy. The mother and the son. It's bizarre. So I think when this plays out in real life, the tendency for, let's say, the daughter-in-law is to try to meet all of the pseudo qualifications that the mother-in-law is trying to hold her to.
It's never going to happen.
But the lesson here is never going to happen.
No.
It's actually just a waste of your time. Might even make it worse if you continue to try to be something that is not even reachable. Yeah. And so the real lesson here, and I pulled 3, what could you do in this scenario? Just because even if you don't get a full hyperbole experience with mother-in-law from hell, there's probably attributes of this in many, many relationships that are quote unquote healthy. And so for me, it's number one is that relationship. Let's call it the Noah and what's that chick's name? Joanne. Noah and Joanne's relationship. Set boundaries. The adult child and that adult child's relationship must get to the point, regardless of what their parents think about them, but Jesus Christ, especially if they're in their 30s, they must establish firm, healthy boundaries from the mother altogether. This is the family now. We've talked about this in our relationship. In our part 1, we continued to perceive our marriage as this extension of the families that we came from. And I think a really proper formation of new relationship is to consider it as almost a new family altogether. It's not that you don't have those really strong connections and that those parts of family aren't super important, but this is a new whole being in the form of the relationship.
I want to highlight here that yes, the couple needs to create and hold to these boundaries, but it must be initiated by the non-in-law, by the, like, if we're talking about a mother-son relationship here that needs boundaries, it must come from the man in this particular case. I'm not saying that the woman can't participate or hold firm to the boundaries or whatever, or be, supportive and everything, but if it's not, the mother is never going to take it seriously unless it comes directly from the man. And you see this in the show because they're sitting at dinner and the mother is like completely just trash talking Joanne in front of everyone. And Noah like looks at her and says, "Mom, enough." And she, the mother is like, "Oh my God, this has never happened.
Right.
What is she doing to my son?" Probably.
Right.
But as the watcher, you like want to like cheer, you're like, okay, this guy, like he's got a pair of balls.
Right. Well, and I'm sure there's a bunch of guys out there who've had father-in-laws where there's a similar like insurmountable expectation. Sure. And so I think that the same could be said for, it's one thing to stand up for yourself, but it's even more powerful when the relationship includes the individual whose family is pressuring them to really step into that space of like, yo, that's enough.
Yeah.
Emotional detachment. So like the health of your relationship should not be dependent on whether or not you're getting approval from your in-laws. That's easier said than done because anyone who does get approval from their in-laws, it really does like feel good.
Yeah. And the opposite is true. Like when you know that this family does not like you, it is so stressful.
Yeah.
Not that I've ever experienced that, but...
And then lastly, I mean, you could apply this little lesson to pretty much anything, but like the more you pour into your own relationship development, your own individual development, where, the theme, it's one thing to not need your mother-in-law's approval, but to live your life as if you don't need anyone's approval is a really healthy approach to living and happiness and being satiated by life.
Yeah.
And so the more you can just lean into your own ability to fill up your own cup, your own ability to define success criteria for you and your relationship that doesn't have to do with what other people think about you, the more it's going to support the relationship at large, the health and vitality of the relationship. And I assure you, in most cases, now, if you have a malignant narcissist for an in-law, you may just write that one off. It just may not ever happen for you. But usually, even if you have a difficult in-law environment and those people still love their child, maybe it's 2 years, maybe it's 5 years, maybe it's 10 years down the road when you have kids and you have a family, and they see deep love and commitment and accountability to the decisions that they've made as a family and as a couple, those in-laws will go, man, they may not ever say I was wrong. Yeah. But they may warm up. Right. They may open up. Yeah. And I've definitely seen it. I've definitely felt it. And it's something that doesn't feel good in the moment, but if you can have the vision of like the 10-year plan and you know that it's going to only lead to more abundance in your own relationship, I think those external factors like the mother-in-law or the father-in-law from hell will slowly start to just like wear away. Yeah. Yeah. I'm breaking it down. All right. Next up, I'm going to jump to the fear of the feminine. So there's a really like turning point moment in the show. I think it's like, I don't know, probably the third or fourth episode. Because, Joanne, as we've stated, is kind of this, call her daddy type character. Call me daddy. And she's kind of bouncing around dating apps and like dating kind of douchey guys. And, it's all for the podcast. Like she tells all these like dysfunctional dating, stories on the podcast, and it makes for entertaining listening, whatever. And so she's never really been with a solid man. And there's this moment where she's like learning more about herself as she's realizing how much she likes this guy that's different than any other guy she's ever dated. And she's talking about, he asks her basically what her greatest fear is. And it's such a vulnerable moment when she shares this. She has to actually turn her back to him because it's like, she's like, I can't look at you and do this. Like I need to just speak and I'm going to turn my back to you. So she speaks on behalf of, I think, many women when she confesses to him. She says,
I'm afraid of becoming emotionally dependent on a man just for him to break my heart because I'm too much to handle.
Wow.
And I've heard that many times, from different women in maybe different words, but essentially the thing behind the thing is I'm scared of being too much for him. I'm scared of showing myself. I'm scared of showing all of myself to this person, to this guy, because I don't want to scare him. I don't want to be too much to handle. And that is like a major theme in masculine feminine dynamic. A lot of times the man can be something like, I'm afraid of not being enough. So they're always striving. And for the woman, it's, I'm afraid of being too much.
Yeah. And so like, maybe let's double click on that. Mm-hmm. When I have the feeling of whether I'm not enough, it oftentimes literally means like, am I not making enough money for our family? Am I not physically attractive enough? Am I not smart or intelligent enough to wow you with my intellect or whatever? Those are some of the things that come to mind when I think about not being enough. What for a woman is like too much then?
Your emotions. The fact that you have mood swings on a regular weekly basis, depending on your cycle. The fact that many women are conflicted in their desire to have a career, but also desire to be a mother. And it can seem like we don't know what we want.
Yeah.
Or that we're not all in on one or the other. Women are often touted as irrational, emotional beings that can't be trusted. That's a lot. That's a lot to carry. And of course, there can be individual experiences of just personality traits. But that's definitely, I would say it's mostly revolves around our emotions and being tied to our emotions, which, by the way, is a strength, or it can be. It can definitely be unbalanced, but it's, that proximity to our emotions that allows us to, dance freely and be in our feminine when we hear an amazing song, or be an incredible mother because we're nurturing and we're connected to those emotions. And obviously I could go on, but that's what I think of when I think of being, too much.
Yeah, no, that's good. Thank you.
Or even just like talking too much.
Sure. Yeah.
So I think, part of this comes from, and there may be some women out there that hate me for saying this, but I think it needs to be said. I think women since the 60s, and there's plenty of people that talk about this all over the internet, all over podcasts, but since the sexual revolution of the 60s, where birth control was invented, and now women have this way to kind of take their sexuality back and be in control of, whether they get pregnant or not. Because innately we know as women that like being sexually active is much more of a risk and much more expensive for us than it is for men, because dude guy could just like bounce, and this is potentially an 18-year commitment for us if things don't go well. Right. So obviously there's an argument to be had around birth control, that it was good for women, but there's also parts of it, I think, that aren't so great. And women have been told since the 60s, since this time, that we can do and should do everything that men do. Everything from our career to fitness to how we date. And so I've seen this, in my own life experience. I've, talked to, witnessing friends, dating and life experiences, people just DMing me and telling me like what's going on. You'd be surprised what people say in the DMs on this kind of stuff. And now this show that we're talking about, where we're seeing that it's actually really unnatural for most women to behave like men. And this is something that was touted as, like feminism, basically. And it makes me wonder, like, is this really in the best interest of females? I don't know. And so, yeah, we see that in this confession of Joanne, she is just speaking directly for the feminine. She's, that the feminine wants to be seen fully and loved fully. And not having that, being seen fully and being like, whoa, I don't want that. That's like the biggest fear. But in our society and in the show, it takes a really good man for her and for many other women, after countless douchebags, to flip on the light and help our leading lady really to surrender to what she yearns for in her heart, which is to let her masculine shells go and be in her feminine and let dude guy lead. And he really provides this thing that the feminine yearns for, which is a safe, calm, trustworthy, protective, masculine container, for lack of a better word. And I think many, many women want that and would thrive with that, but we've been told we need to put on these masculine shells and behave like men to reach happiness. But I just don't think that that's a recipe for success. And the last thing that I'm going to say here is I think there's 2 reasons why this show is so popular. The writers nailed some really important archetypes. One we've already talked about. And it showcased that women are tired of having to behave like men, pretending that they are exactly the same and fucking their way to happiness.
Yeah.
It's very empty. And I think largely women are consciously or unconsciously sick of it. And this show puts that on a billboard.
Nailed it. Yeah, nailed it. Like really, really well said. This show, nobody wants this, is successful because it's showcasing the step back for women from this endless pursuit of finding themselves through transactional relationships and moving into softness and listening to their own intuition, while a man is stepping out of what he should do, what other people are telling him to do, and choosing his own ideas and perspectives about relationship, about love. And he's shooting his shot like a man should do from a place of integrity, not to fuck, not to get off, not to, scorecard your way to as many women as you possibly can, but for something that is deeper than that. And to me, why this is really taking off, in addition to all the, OC nostalgia and the freaking amazing acting and some of these other components, is that like, damn it, dude, our culture is ready for this. We're desperate for this. We're thirsty for real, legitimate masculine and feminine dynamics playing out in modern mainstream relationships. Aren't we all fucking tired of this? Like, you can be whatever the fuck you want to be and it should all just fit and be happy. And don't get me wrong, there's a lot of cases and arguments for just radical acceptance, but sometimes leaning into your innate being, like being a man or being a woman, and just listening to the natural rhythms of your own self will allow for something like this to take place. I know this is a fictional story, but there are components to this that I think are really resonating. Yeah,
this is a story that's never happened, but is happening all the time.
Right. It's myth, for sure. For sure.
And so I think, if we're talking about like lessons, if you're dating, you are better off. I'm speaking from a woman's perspective, but of course this applies for both men and women. You're better off being honest about what your real desires are in a relationship, in a partner, and your fears too. Maybe not date number 1, but like if that kind of thing scares dude guy off or scares dude girl off, then they didn't possess the emotional depth that you require and need for a really like deep, healthy relationship.
Yeah.
So like you've wasted less of your time. So I think that that's more productive. Just being honest. Go figure. Being honest with what you want and what you,
God forbid,
what you fear. And if you are a feminine being, acquiring the masculine shells of society that society has told us are necessary, will not help you find the partner your heart really desires. So just let them go. It's not easy, but let them go.
Thank you, Adam Brody.
Thank you. All right. Into the next segment. This is one of our favorite segments. It's a very self-explanatory name. The times are tough, but the memes are easy.
Very nice.
You want to go first?
I have so many, so I may not be able to stick to 5. All right, the first one. Thinking about how much work I could get done if I would do it.
Oh, yeah, that's good. Our body consists of 4 major glitches: hitting our funny bone, rubbing our eyes too hard, having something cold touch your 2 front teeth, and standing up too fast.
Oh my God, the teeth one.
Yeah, it's so true.
What is that? What evolutionarily, what is that? Don't bite this because it's cold? It'll kill you. It's so damn cold.
No, I think your 2 front teeth, because they're so thin, because they're incisors, they're so thin that it takes less time for that cold, for that temperature to get to the nerve. And those nerves are just really sensitive.
I guess I'm trying to wonder what the evolutionary benefit to the cold feedback of literally wanting to kill yourself is.
I don't know. Evolutionary glitch.
All right. This is a classic and I had to retell it. You ever meet someone and you can tell they were heavily involved on campus?
That's my sister. I can't believe we really used to print out 4 pages of MapQuest directions and travel the streets like pirates following a treasure map.
So true. That was high school. When I first got my license, I had that MapQuest shit and on point.
So much more dangerous than looking at your phone.
Yeah. Yeah.
I can't believe that we used to do that. Just multiple pages of directions.
The dark ages.
Yeah.
Did it hurt when you had to fade your voice out while you were telling a story to a group of people once you realized nobody was really paying attention?
That's the worst, dude. Oh my God. Or you're in a group of people and you start telling a story and you realize half of them aren't listening. So you're darting around looking at who is actually listening.
And then you usually lock into the most introverted, mousy person and you're like, I know, okay, you're not going to get any other attention. So I need to at least finish my story with you. Otherwise, if I know there's nobody, sometimes I just go, all right, fucking whatever. Okay, I'll just stop talking.
I know. We literally say that out loud sometimes. Yeah. Okay, no one's listening.
Okay, good stuff.
Great stuff. Tough stuff. Simba. My uncle killed my father and is trying to kill me now. Timon and Pumbaa. Oh, wow. Have you tried just not fucking worrying about it?
Oh, that is actually one of the best lessons from that movie. Mm-hmm. Just raw dogged a 6-minute drive to the grocery store. No Twitter, no YouTube shorts, no texting. Locked in and on the road the whole time. Built different.
Try that on the toilet.
Right. That was a bit from our last episode.
Yes. Animals are so crazy because why is your mom only 1 year older than you?
Yeah. Yeah, that's wild. All right, I got a couple quickies here. McFlurry is a beautiful name for an Irish boy. What if Aristotle was pronounced like Chipotle?
Wait.
Aristotle.
That's good. I got a quickie. I did not realize how much of my adult life would be spent thinking about protein.
Yeah, that one's true.
It's so true.
Real.
Okay, last one for me. This is a funny.
Okay.
Do you guys like the shaft of the broccoli or the pubes?
That's really good. I love that. Jesus, a good dick joke. It just always gets me. Okay. I got 3 of them here that I really like.
Okay. I'm going to be done because I got to save something for the next time.
I'll save some. Okay, bet. When you're tired at night, everything's funny. When you're tired in the morning, nothing's funny.
It's true.
Hot air balloons kick ass. Are they safe? Not really. Can you stop if you don't like it? Think again. But can you steer? Listen, don't bring that negative energy into this wicker basket, okay? I'm going to light this flamethrower.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
All right, this one's pretty good. Maybe I'll end on this one.
Maybe.
This is very much on the note of woman being too much. It's very important to have a crew of insane women who are on your side.
Yes, it is.
I love how no laugh from you, just absolute seriousness.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Too
True.
good. Too
It
freaking
is
good.
true. You guys see why we love that one. My face hurts from laughing.
Yeah, my cheekbones are getting a workout. Okay. That wraps up our 3 appetizers, and we're going to move on to our 3 question entree.
All right. These are questions that are directly from you guys, our listeners. And you can, if you're listening and you have a relationship question for us, you can send it in to themedicinepodcast@gmail.com. Remember, medicine is spelled without an E on the end. We can always keep it anonymous. I think we kept all these anonymous.
I'll read the first one, and I'll try not to keep thinking about the broccoli dick joke.
Okay.
What is the one best relationship advice you've ever received?
I'll start. I don't have one. I have 3.
Okay. You're not too much.
Not too much. So I forget where I learned this from or who I learned this from, or maybe it was an original thought. I don't know. Maybe you can help me if you remember. But if you're in a relationship, you are an individual, your partner is an individual, and the love that you create is another individual or third entity. And this third entity and the well-being of the relationship must take priority over your desire to be right or win the argument. And the reason why this is one of the best pieces is because it covers so much ground. If you are, I'm not saying that you necessarily forfeit your voice or don't say what you think, or but it allows you a pause to think about in the moment of charge or disagreement or whatever, what is actually best for our relationship. Sometimes it's best for your relationship to speak up because you've held your voice for way too long and it's creating resentment. Sometimes it's best for your relationship to not speak and to simply listen to your partner's experience. So it's like this magic formula of kind of adapting to different scenarios. Your communication, how you argue, how you make decisions in your life and in your relationship. So it covers a lot of ground, but it reminds you that if you want your relationship to thrive, it has to be, the priority must be this third entity, the health of the relationship, not just your own experience or your desire to win or be right.
Yeah.
And I think that that's invaluable relationship advice.
Love that. Yeah.
Do you want me to keep going or do you want to alternate?
Well, while we're on that one, just one of the pieces of the relationship advice that's been really meaningful to me, because it's kind of in the same vein as is the idea of the scorecard and scorekeeping. And a relationship that is scorekeeping is immediately a losing game for both parties. Relationships are not a win-lose dynamic. And the moment you find yourself scorekeeping, where you're tallying all the things that you're doing compared to the things that they're doing in the relationship, you've already lost, even if you think you're ahead. And so removing the scoreboard altogether, the scorekeeping altogether, is one of the best pieces of the relationship advice I've ever received. And I don't really know who it came from. So it could have been my own head as well.
Yeah. This next piece of advice did come from someone else, from our friend Figs O'Sullivan. Speaking of an, what was it? Irish name?
Yeah, he has a great nose ring.
He's a legit couples therapist, and we interviewed him on episode 170, if you want to go back and listen to that. So he reminds us that when me and my partner are disconnected or going through a hard time or having, a really big argument, remember that, quote, we are hurting. And that if you're disconnected and things aren't going well for whatever reason, your partner is also hurting. You might see things differently, but they have their own experience that is just as important as yours. And it's something that, helps you exercise this empathy muscle when all you want to do is think about your own pain and your own experience. And so, because I think empathy and understanding that your partner's experience is just as real as yours is a critical nutrient to a relationship that thrives. So we are hurting. And thank you, Figs.
Yeah, really good one. Again, as I'm kind of keeping with the theme of yours, a piece of a relationship advice, this one came from my father. Thank you, Dad. But when I was thinking about getting back together with you, or we were thinking about getting back together, obviously my family was like, hey, remember what happened during the divorce? And here's all the different things. And we talked through it at length. And we kind of got to this point after a long conversation where he just kind of like really dropped this profound wisdom upon me. And he was like, son, at the end of the day, you're going to carry your shit around wherever you go. And it's less about finding the right relationship to fix your shit and more around who do you want to work through your shit with? Mm-hmm. And what does that mean? That means who has the capacity to play witness to and hold space for your darkest bullshit, mm-hmm. the worst thoughts that you've told yourself, the worst things that you've done. On the opposite side of that, who do you feel most comfortable being beautifully vulnerable and intimate with? Your deepest desires, who would you like to share those with? And just that framing alone, for me, really helped, because the moment I thought and meditated upon those types of things, it was just such a full body fuck yes that it was you. Mm-hmm. And so just a nice thought exercise, even as you're evaluating dating partners and where your relationship is at currently, it's like, yes, you want all of the commercialized components to the perfect relationship, but who is going to have your fucking back and be with you to work through your bullshit, mm-hmm. And vice versa.
Yeah. Yeah. That's great. Thank you, Randog. The last one for me, might be the most important one, honestly. And that is, don't ever stop playing together. Simple.
Word. Yeah.
Easy.
We got another question coming up about, I think, play and fun stuff. So mm-hmm. we'll get into that more.
Yeah.
Last one that comes to mind for me. This is my own practice. I'm sure it's in a book somewhere, because, we all probably pulled from the same database and the collective consciousness for this one. But, I could just be a dick sometimes. And the way that I speak is abrasive oftentimes. And so a practice, especially as we divorced and I was trying to work on myself in relationships and not having just such a quick fuse to be cutting or sarcastic or whatever, is to just zoom out and pretend you are completely, like separate from who you are in the relationship. So like you and I are having a charged conversation and I'm being sarcastic and cutting and negative. And if I forgot for a minute that I was myself and I was playing witness to just some stranger speaking like that to my partner, I would get so defensive of you. I would get so combative with that individual. And so sometimes that little mind exercise of just like detaching myself from myself and replaying the things that I was saying or the things that I was doing, is like a powerful and humbling piece of relationship advice, because it really gets you to think like, oh my God, was I being a dick? Or it might, it might even be supportive, is like, if you are being talked to in an abusive way and you kind of just zoom out, like you're looking at a friend getting talked to that way, to be like, I should not be in this relationship, or I should not be standing up for this, mm-hmm. or whatever. So that was a fun little nugget that my soul gave me.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think that's great. Do you find yourself doing that often?
Doing what?
Doing that exercise?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have a problem where I wake up at 3 a.m. and replay everything that's going on in my life. And it has no bounds. It goes to every domain, every interaction, every conversation. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. I think that's a really, if you know that you are someone that can be intense, I think that that's a good practice for sure, for anyone.
What are you saying? I'm intense?
You know you're intense. All right. Next question. I will read this one. This is a doozy. Okay. This is a toughie. She says, I'll keep this anonymous. I was on birth control when my husband and I got married 12 years ago. I stopped taking it around 2016, and I believe not being on it has slowly changed my attraction to my husband negatively. I don't know how he would react if I told him I think that's part of why he wants to be intimate more than I do. I don't think he would believe that birth control could change who you are attracted to. Any thoughts on how to navigate this challenge? I know this is a loaded question. Yes, it is a loaded question, but it's a really good one because this is real. I've not only heard from girlfriends of mine, but also there have been published studies about how birth control can change the chemistry of the brain such that if you're on birth control, when you get with your partner, when you meet your partner, husband, whatever, and you get off of it, it can change your sexual attractiveness to that person. For example, a 2014 study published in Proceedings of the Royal Society B found that women who chose their partners while on birth control reported lower levels of sexual attraction to their partner after discontinuing the pill, though their overall relationship satisfaction in terms of emotional connection was not necessarily significantly affected, which is good news. But there were other studies too that I could have listed, but this was just one of them. I have many thoughts, but I want to see if you want to start first here.
Yeah, I mean, I can be relatively quick. I think it's totally legit as far as the chemistry being altered through birth control. In our relationship, part one, you were on birth control. I noticed a significant difference in your behavior.
But I wasn't on birth control when we met, just FYI for the listeners out there.
But like, you could probably, if you could graph our connection in our marriage and see disconnect, perfectly aligned with birth control. And so I think there's a legitimate component there. However, if you're in a marriage, which sounds like you are, guaranteed coming down the pipeline is dealing with the seasonal and rotational changes of each other's bodies and the way that each other looks. And at the minimum, you're both getting older. In many cases, your weight's fluctuating, your skin is aging, your guys' hairs are falling out. There's things that just are inevitable. And so every marriage, every relationship has to ride out the I'm not as physically attracted to my partner anymore time frame, era, whatever. And so the relationship, like a marriage, is too massive to be supported by physical attraction alone. That is one spoke on a multiple spoke wheel that we call the relationship. And so what else is not attractive? Is there emotional compatibility that's problematic? Is there a friendship that has been lost? Is there not enough spark? Is there not enough like actual play, masculine and feminine dynamic or play? Take an inventory of all of those other spokes on the wheel. Because I think that there's surely things that you can probably do directly. Like, hey, we should get in shape, or we should get a gym membership and start eating better. But I think it's a really healthy exercise to evaluate all these other components because there may be other deficiencies that are contributing to your attractiveness or to his attractiveness that could be helped or supported, and not just the birth control alone.
Yeah. I think to start, because she says, I don't know if I should have a conversation about this with him. I don't know if he would believe this, blah, blah, blah. I don't think you should even mention it. I don't think you need to have that part of the conversation, because I think it would do more harm than good. And there's no way to actually prove definitively that is what is happening. I believe you. I believe that this is your experience. And obviously I just cited a study that says that this is real, but you can't like present evidence. And, she says, maybe this is one of the reasons why he wants to be intimate more than I do. I think probably like 90% of couples, the guy is like DTF probably every day, and
Sounds
like, it's just
right.
different for men and women.
Yeah.
So, and even with us, we have a very healthy, active sex life. But if we were to like tally the times that like you want it or initiate it versus me, I think it's different. It's just different. Men are more oriented that way. And women need more emotional connection and like physical touch and non-sexual touch and things like that. So like there's part of this that is like, this is probably every couple, And like you said, totally just want to echo and reiterate that like every couple is going to go through this, whether you're on birth control or no, as a part of the equation. Every couple is going to have to go through this at some point in their relationship. So you're not alone. Everyone has to deal with this. So my advice would be kind of the flip-flop of what you said, where you're like, okay, what else is maybe not at its optimal peak in your relationship? That's, I think, important to think about, but also as a potential, I don't know if this is a solution per se, but just a way to start thinking about it differently is make a list of all the things that you are attracted to, that maybe isn't necessarily tied to his physical appearance or, pheromones or whatever. Is it his trustworthiness, dependability? Is it his determination in his career? Is it how he fathers your children? Is it how he takes care of you, how he provides for you? Like, make a list of all the things that you are like all in on and attracted to, and read this list over 5 times and tell your brain to find instances, find examples of these attractive things to you in your day, in your everyday life together. And if you tell your brain, if you make your brain designate these as important, your brain will see them more. That would be my, piece of advice. And to just like not be so hard on him or yourself, because this is, again, something that everyone navigates. And, I would bring it up. Like when you notice these things that you are attracted to in him, say it's how hard he works at his job or whatever. Tell him often and show gratitude. When you hear it and see it in your own mind, it's one thing, but when you actually say it to the person, it's another thing. And it makes it have weight in the world and to your partner. And I think too, the next question that we're going to ask, or the next question that we're going to answer, could also contribute to a connection that isn't necessarily tied to raw sexual attraction. So I hope that helps. Yeah,
I think we've talked about this on previous episodes, but man, a proper spark in the relationship dynamic, physical attractiveness comes online like crazy. And so there could be some like deeper components that could actually problem solve some of the physical attractiveness piece. And then, there are cases too where someone really, really prioritizes health and fitness, diet, exercise, and their partner doesn't. And that starts to wear on them. And then they start to see the byproduct of that. And they're like, well, fuck, dude, I'm not physically attracted to them. But it's like more important than that is you're not physically attracted to the fact that they don't prioritize their health. And so that's actually more upstream even than just the fact that you're not attracted to them.
Yeah.
So could be a lot. Yeah. Could be a lot.
Yeah.
Last question, and you just hinted at it. What are some fun non-sexual activities or games to play with your spouse to keep the simmer going during long and stressful work weeks? It's super easy to just veg out in front of the TV. In
an episode where we're like, watch this show.
Well, it's funny because like when we were talking about this question, briefly. We like to just do these live. We don't have like a bunch of notes or anything, but we were just picking questions, and I think it is really fun to have a show or two. Mm-hmm. Like we watch the Great British Baking Show on Fridays in the fall. Yeah. Love it. But what are we doing? We are ensuring that there's a delayed gratification component, meaning we wait until Friday to watch it. Mm-hmm. And then Friday night's Great British Baking Show night. We binged watched this Netflix show, which we don't ever do.
We've literally like never binged a show.
But it's like, it was kind of fun in its little special place on the entertainment mantle that we have. Yeah. And so I think it is fun to have a show or two. I'm a big advocate of in fact, talking with your partner about like, hey, I want to watch this movie or I want to watch this show. And then you both go, instead of doing it immediately, what if we plan for that like 2 days from now?
Yeah.
Because then you build a tension, you build a charge with that activity where you have anticipation. I mean, so much of dopamine is just anticipation of the thing. The chemical of pleasure is released by actually delaying and extending the fulfillment of that thing. Just like, oddly enough, Christmas Eve sometimes feels better than Christmas Day, right? And so if you can build those little hacks into your life, I think having a show or having a movie night is fucking awesome.
Yes. Yeah. No, I love that disclaimer. And, it's like for us, we watch like an hour of TV a night. We're not binging right after dinner until the time that we go to bed. And so here's a list of, some other things that we do to stay connected during the week. Other disclaimer here, we're not game people. She mentions like activities or games to play with your spouse. We're not board game people. No. There's nothing wrong with them. It's just we don't gravitate towards
like
that.
3 times a year, maybe.
We play like cribbage at the lake, and that's our thing. That's what we do. But a lot of couples are like game oriented.
My brother and sister-in-law. They're
absolutely awesome. And love that for them. So if you are a game person, there's literally like millions of options in that way. But these are our recommendations, not being board game people. So I'll just read through the list here, and if I missed anything, you can chime in. Put on some vibey music. Music makes everything better. Put on some vibey music. Start making playlists. We love making playlists together. Like we hear a song on Spotify, like, ooh, add that to the spiritual playlist. Add that to the sex playlist or whatever. And we cook dinner every night together, which is really fun. And we enjoy that quality time together. Or you could even bake a dessert together. Come to dinner. We do this often. Come to dinner with a question for your partner. So like, say you're making dinner together and you're like, all right, let's think of a question for each other. And then while you're cooking dinner, you're each trying to think of a question to bring to the conversation table.
We'll set like a theme sometimes. And we actually have purchased a couple different like decks of questions that you can propose to your friends or girlfriends or wives or boyfriends.
And they come with like hundreds of examples that you just pull, and some of them are stupid, some of them are awesome, but that's a really fun one too.
We do art, we paint.
Yeah, we love doing that. I would say try going on a walk after dinner instead of like, okay, dinner's over. If you have kids, then your nightly routine is going to be a little different. But go on a walk after dinner. And we like finding like special little peaceful places around in our walking loops. We had them in Coronado. I'm sure we'll discover them here. Find a spot that like you can sit with your partner and just be like focused on each other and just like hold hands and like take a few breaths together. It sounds like super woo, but it's great. Synchronizing your breath is a great way to stay connected to your partner. Sit outside and watch the stars or UFOs and play some music. We do that almost every single night, especially here. It's great. But even if you live in a city, just getting outside, letting the cool evening air, cool you off at night or whatever. Obviously it's getting colder. So, that might be a little harder for people.
Not talked about enough unless you're a just thorough music lover is we culturally listen to music multitasking. But to sit in reverence for a particular song or a particular instrument and do nothing besides maybe sip some tea or smoke some cannabis is beautiful. It is so fucking amazing.
Yeah.
And to do that with a partner where you're both sitting there going like, oh my God, this flute.
Yeah, I know.
It is a really connecting experience.
Yeah. Yeah. If you guys want to hear our, evening playlist, our evening music playlist, you can always DM me and I'll send it to you on Spotify. Because these songs are like, you can't not be just like wowed by the lyrics, by the sound, by the frequency. It's the best. So yeah, we obviously love that one. If you are book readers, you could read to each other. We loved this. We don't do it much anymore, but this was really fun for a time. The first book we read to each other was a really good one, Many Lives, Many Masters. I would highly recommend that book. It's just a really fun, fascinating book, and it really holds your attention. You could listen to an audiobook together while you like give each other a foot rub. FaceTime a friend couple that you miss. I mean, this could be anyone. We like to FaceTime our couples, our friend couples.
Yeah.
We just had one last night with Cole and Allie and Mark and Leanna.
Usually every other
Aaron
week,
and Selena.
We're talking to friends of ours, and one, it's kind of like, I say this all the time because we shit on tech often and legitimately. So it's like wrecking so much of our wellness. But if we're not optimizing it for connection and health, and my friend Will and I talk about like, all right, we live in 2024. If you're not traveling, if you're not getting exposed to amazing new things, like through the domain of technology and, highly efficient travel through airplanes and everything like that, like, man, you're kind of getting your ass kicked in a lot of ways by tech. So you've got to like turn tech back on itself and use it for your own benefit.
Yeah, totally.
And this is absolutely one of those ways.
The last one that I have here is, I know you said non-sexual, but hear me out. Get a legit massage table, or you could just use the couch, but that's pretty tough on your back. Some good oil, and do massage night a few times a month. So Chase and I would do this. We've talked about it on the show before. He got me a legit massage table. It was probably a couple $100.
Yeah. I think it was probably, $200.
You got it for a gift for me for my birthday one year. And it was like one of the best gifts I've ever received because it's a gift that keeps on giving. And it really does make a difference when you have a legit table. One, the person is completely comfortable, and then it's a lot easier for the person. If physical touch is high in your love language repertoire, we usually do like 45 minutes to an hour each. That's obviously pretty intense. Start with 15 minutes or 30 minutes each and, flip flop, light some candles, turn off the lights. It's technically non-sexual, but oftentimes you're just so connected that like it oftentimes just leads to that.
Yeah. It's kind of inevitable, but even just like foot massages on the couch,
totally.
It feels fantastic, but it's also connecting, Did
I miss any
No,
you want to
really
add?
Good. Yeah, I think those are really good. We're not like game people. Maybe we should be. Maybe that's how we spice it up. Games. Monopoly.
Yeah, we could.
I'm
Monopoly.
I'm more like categories type of guy. Yeah. We used to play Harry Potter trivia when we were.
We memorized all the questions though.
That's true.
We memorized all the answers.
All right. That wraps up our entree. The dessert, as always, is a crazy story, and I've got a good one. We call this one the bathroom disaster. This was sent to me by one of our listeners. What a crazy story. I want you to think about the moral of the story.
Okay.
I got mine.
All right.
In my sophomore year of college, I started hooking up with a guy I knew from high school. Now, I have this embarrassing habit of accidentally shitting myself whenever I get blackout drunk, which, let's be honest, happens more than I'd like to admit. One morning, after a wild night of multiple rounds of sex, we're lying hungover in bed when he spots something brown on my forearm. What's that? He asks. Panic sets in as I flash back to the wee hours of the morning when I had the unfortunate mishap of puking and pooping simultaneously. It's chocolate, I quickly responded, and to prove it, I lick the spot on my arm, fully aware that it's actually poop. Later, he then confesses to having heard my bathroom struggles and knowing it wasn't chocolate.
Oh my God. Dude, that is foul.
Moral of the story?
Moral of the story is you're basically giving yourself E. coli when you lick your own poop. So don't do that. Also, don't get blackout drunk.
That's a legitimate moral. My moral of the story is if it's brown and doesn't have a wrapper, it could be poop.
Yeah, that is so raunchy. Oh,
Guys,
man.
thanks for hanging in there with us today on the Chase and Mimi Show. Give us a like, subscribe to our YouTube channel. That would be much appreciated, and engage with us.
Yeah.
We
Leave us a
answer
comment.
every comment on our YouTube channel, and we're really looking to grow that channel. So if you can jump onto YouTube, give us a subscribe, give us a like, and even comment or ask a question. We're also taking relationship questions. We're taking crazy stories. We're taking any additional feedback for segments because we want this to be conversational.
Yep. Thank you guys for hanging out with us. We will talk to you next time. Go spread some light. Okay, bye.
Thank you so much for listening.
If you enjoyed that, check out right over here for some more fun clips.
Oh, and you're going to want to subscribe.
Bye.